There is a clock ticking in the background of your life. You rarely hear it over the noise of your ambitions, but it is there. Relentless. Unforgiving. Every time you blink, the world you saw a moment ago is dead, replaced by a new one. Time does not wait for your readiness. You breathe in, and by the time you breathe out, that second is gone, swallowed by the abyss of the past, never to return. But the terrifying part isn't that time is moving. The terrifying part is that everything you love, everything you are building, everything you think you are, is slipping away with it. Look at your hands. The skin is aging. Look at the mountains. They are crumbling grain by grain. Youth evaporates like morning mist. Relationships fracture and reform. Wealth circulates. Even your reputation, that golden statue you spend decades polishing, will eventually be eroded by the winds of history. Nothing stays. And yet, look at how we live. We live as if we are immortal. We build fortresses out of sand and weep when the tide comes in. The Buddha saw this tragedy with crystal clarity thousands of years ago. He gave it a name, Anicca, the Law of Impermanence. He saw that from the violent birth of a star, the brief flicker of a neuron firing in your brain, the universe is a river of constant flux. There is no solid ground. There is no forever. He taught that all conditioned things are transient. When one sees this not with the eyes, but with deep wisdom, the heart turns away from suffering. This is the beginning of purification. But here lies the great contradiction of the human condition. We are creatures of flux living in a world of change, yet we are addicted to the fantasy of stasis. We crave certainty in a chaotic cosmos. We demand that things we love stay exactly as they are. We spend 40, 50, 60 years building careers, hoarding objects, and manicuring our identities. We construct a cage of comfort and call it stability. And when the inevitable happens, when the diagnosis comes, when the market crashes, when the lover leaves, we are shattered. We scream at the universe, "Why is this happening to me?" But the universe isn't punishing you. It is simply moving. We suffer because we believe the lie. We believed these things belonged to us. We believed they would last. The problem is not that life is short. The problem is that we are asleep. If today were truly your last day, if the sun setting tonight was the final sunset you would ever witness, what would remain unfinished? Not your emails, not your bank account, but your soul. What heavy stones are you carrying that you should have dropped miles ago? The Stoics, those ancient architects of Western resilience, understood this too. They stared into the face of death and commanded us not to fear it, but to use it as a razor to trim away the trivial. They taught us to differentiate between what we can control, our integrity, our choices, and what we cannot, like the decaying of the body or the opinions of others. But while Stoicism teaches us to endure the storm with a stiff upper lip, Buddhism offers a different path. It asks you to become the storm. It asks you to understand impermanence so viscerally that you are no longer trapped by it. It is not about gritting your teeth and accepting loss. It is about letting the brutal truth of change reshape your molecular understanding of existence. This truth isn't here to depress you. It is here to shake you awake. It is a splash of cold water on a sleeping face. It reminds you that this moment right now, the sensation of sound entering your ears, the rhythm of your chest rising and falling is a miracle that will never be repeated. So, the question burns, what are you doing with this breath? When we stop clinging to the fantasy that we can freeze time, we stop postponing our lives. We stop chasing distractions to numb the fear of death. We start living with a terrifying, beautiful clarity. We do not avoid pain, nor do we run from sadness. We meet them. We invite them in for tea, knowing they too are visitors that will leave. When you realize that everything is slipping through your fingers like water, you stop to clench your fist. You realize that the only way to hold water is to cup your hands and let it flow. But who is the one trying to hold the water? We spend our lives chasing recognition, chasing success, chasing the dopamine hit of approval. But have you ever stopped in the dead of night to ask who is doing the chasing? Most people never ask this. They are too afraid of the answer. The entity chasing these things isn't really you. It is a construct, a mental Frankenstein's monster we have stitched together. It is a voice in the back of your skull that whispers, "You aren't enough yet." Prove yourself. Be someone. Don't let them forget you. That voice is the shadow. It is the ego. The ego is not your true self. It is a defense mechanism, a shape made out of fear and desire. It is a story you tell yourself about who you are. I am a success. I am a victim. I am a lover. I am a failure. We spend our entire lives defending this story. We arm ourselves with clothes, titles, and opinions to protect this fortress. But inside, we are exhausted. The weight of carrying a false self is crushing. The Buddha deconstructed this self long ago. He looked for the soul and found only a process. He called it the 5 aggregates. Form the body, a biological machine that changes every second. Feeling the shifting weather of emotion. Perception, the lens through which we judge and label. Mental formations, the habits and knee-jerk reactions we mistake for personality. Consciousness, the pure awareness that notices it all. He said form is impermanent. Feeling is impermanent. Consciousness is impermanent. None of this is me. None of this is mine. The ego is just a whirlpool in a river. It looks like a thing. It has a shape. But it is just water moving quickly. If you try to grab the whirlpool, you only get wet. This realization, Anatta, or non-self, is not nihilistic. It is the ultimate liberation. If there is no fixed you to defend, then you have nothing to lose. You don't have to win. You don't have to be right. You don't have to be remembered. You can finally rest. The war is over. The person you were struggling so hard to be was never real to begin with. So, if we let go of the ego, is that a loss? We are conditioned to think that letting go means defeat. When a relationship ends or a dream dies, we feel we have lost a part of ourselves. But what if the act of letting go is not an ending, but an opening? In the architecture of Buddhist psychology, suffering dukkha does not come from pain. Pain is inevitable. Suffering comes from craving. It comes from the refusal to accept reality as it is. We grasp at smoke and complain that we cannot hold it. We try to make the sunset stay, and we suffer when night falls. The Buddha said, "Craving is the origin of suffering." And this craving isn't just for material things. It is the craving to exist. the craving to be permanent. Even the desire to not suffer is a form of craving that causes suffering. When you see this mechanism, the chains begin to loosen. You realize that peace does not come from getting what you want. It comes from stopping the war against what is. This is not hedonism, which chases pleasure to escape pain. It is not skepticism, which doubts everything and commits to nothing. It is the middle way. To let go is to become spacious. Imagine a room packed with furniture, old memories, regrets, future anxieties. You can barely move. Letting go is clearing the room. Suddenly, there is space. Space for calm, space for kindness, space to actually breathe. This leads us to the how. How do we live this way without becoming passive ghosts? We walk the Noble Eightfold Path. Do not think of this as a religious checklist or a set of commandments from a bearded God. Think of it as a blueprint for aligning yourself with gravity. It is the art of flowing downhill rather than swimming upstream. It starts with right view, seeing the world as it actually is, impermanent and interconnected, not how you wish it to be. It moves to right intention. Are you moving from a place of love and clarity, or from fear and greed? Right speech and right action follow. These are not just about being nice. They are about not creating more chaos in a chaotic world. Every word you speak ripples out. Are you creating waves of confusion or islands of peace? Right livelihood. Do you profit from the suffering of others? Right effort. The discipline to guard the gates of your mind. Right mindfulness. The ability to be here, now fully. And right concentration. The razor-sharp focus that cuts through illusion. When you walk this path, you don't become a saint. You become natural. You become like the stream that wears away the stone, not through force, but through persistence and yielding. The Buddha never asked, "What do you desire?" He asked, "What will you do when you realize that nothing you cling to can save you?" This is the ultimate question. If life is a flash of lightning in the dark night of eternity, what truly matters? It is not the accumulation of dust. It is the freedom from the fire. The Buddha called it Nibbana, Nirvana. It is not a heaven where you go when you die. It is the cooling of the flames right here, right now. It is the extinguishing of the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. When these fires go out, what is left is not nothingness. What is left is the radiant, unconditioned peace of a mind that no longer needs to fight. It requires wisdom to see the trap. It requires compassion to care for the other beings trapped with you. Wisdom without compassion is cold arrogance. Compassion without wisdom is sentimental weakness. Together, they are the wings of the bird that flies free. Death is the final teacher. The Buddha told his monks to meditate in graveyards, to watch bodies decay. Not to be morbid, but to shatter their delusions. You could die in the time it takes to inhale and exhale. Does this scare you, or does it liberate you? If you are not your body, not career, not your thoughts, then death is just the breaking of the vase. The space inside the vase was never broken. You don't need to invent meaning in a meaningless world. You need to transcend the desperate need for meaning. You need to just be.